Hey guys, great to be here. So yeah, the new bill in Texas is fascinating. Lawmakers, it's already moved through the Senate. It's going to the House now. Lawmakers are working on a plan to put the Ten Commandments back in the classrooms in government schools all across the state. And they say the goal is to remind children about God's laws and also about the critical role that the Ten Commandments and the Bible played in the founding of America. So this sailed through the Senate. It's expected to sail through the House. Under the bill, every public school classroom in Texas has to display what the text of the legislation describes as a durable poster or framed copy of the Ten Commandments, and that would be effective next school year, so coming up soon. And they anticipated that some anti-Christian, anti-Bible teachers might try to be funny, and so they mandated that these be at least 20 inches tall by 16 inches wide, and that they be posted in a conspicuous place, because the teachers would put like a little teeny tiny microscopic one if they thought they could get away with it or hide it, behind the whiteboard or whatever. So there you go. That's got to be in a conspicuous place. Now, the senator who introduced it, Senator Phil King, he said the bill would remind students all across Texas of the importance of the fundamental foundation of America. That's what he said in a hearing before the bill was passed in the state Senate. And lots of support for this, including from Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick, known as a conservative. He heartily endorsed this measure. He said, bringing the Ten Commandments and prayer back to our public schools will enable our students to become better Texans. And not just better Texans, but also better Americans and better human beings. He expressed hope that this would actually help change the culture all across the country. Now, there are some grumpy anti-God people who don't want that. But of course, the Ten Commandments were at the very foundation of the United States, of our system of government, and even of Western civilization more broadly. America's founding fathers understood this clearly. Right? They understood that thou shalt not murder meant God had given you a right to life. They understood that thou shalt not steal meant that God had given you an unalienable, God-given right to acquire, own, and dispose of property. So these are very, very important, really foundational precepts of our system of government. Now, the lawless Supreme Court did kick the Ten Commandments out of schools back in 1980. And before that, back in the 60s, they had outlawed prayer and Bibles in the schools. But one Justice Potter Stewart, he explained in his dissent what was really going on here. He said this is not actually establishing or creating neutrality with respect to religions. What it did, he said, was established the religion of secularism, or as John Dewey and his humanist buddies would have known it, the religion of humanism, right? The idea that there is no God. And you can read their religious document, the Humanist Manifesto. It is very, very transparent. Their first premise is that we believe the universe is self-existing and not created, which contrasts that with the Bible. In the beginning, God created. Contrast that with our Declaration of Independence that says we hold these truths to be self-evident, that we are all created equally, that our Creator endowed us with certain unalienable rights. So obviously this religion that the Supreme Court established in the 1960s in total violation of the Constitution is not compatible with the principles that the United States is founded on. Now, 2 years ago, Texas lawmakers passed a bill that became law that orders the schools to display "In God We Trust" signs that are donated to the schools. And we've got lots of movement, similar activities in other states, even though the rogue federal courts are trying to suppress it. Now, the anti-religion fanatics at the Freedom from Religion Foundation, and actually I got to debate one of their senior attorneys on the Jesse Lee Peterson show some time ago. That was fun, about this exact question. Should God be in the schools? Should the Ten Commandments be in the schools? And of course, I don't think the government ought to be educating children, but setting that aside, this Freedom from Religion Foundation, they put out this nasty press release. They said, we're going to file a lawsuit, boo-hoo. And they pointed to that Supreme Court decision I mentioned, 1980, Stone versus Graham, where the Supreme Court said the preeminent purpose for posting the Ten Commandments on schoolroom walls is plainly religious. And so they're hoping that the court will strike this down. I wouldn't be so sure this time around, right? We've got a different court with a different makeup, with quite a few conservatives on it. Obviously, the U.S. Supreme Court building itself has, a carving of Moses and the Ten Commandments displayed prominently on the building. And of course, they never had any constitutional authority to tell local government schools what they should be doing, how they should be praying, what Bible they should be reading, etc. None of that's within their purview. Now, again, setting aside the question of whether children should be educated by government in the first place, obviously, children need to be taught about God and his laws. So this bill strikes me as a step in the right direction, even though I still wouldn't send my kids to a public school, and I wouldn't recommend that you do it either. But thanks, guys. Great to be here. Talk to you soon.